Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, and we have got a packed show. I am not even going to do any kind of preamble, but I am going to check in with both of you. Alex, Will, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I am not a dolphin today. So, you know, it was funny. I was at the time where I was like, we're at the end of the road on this bit, and we should end it. And then Alex called me to talk about a few things, and he was like, brother, I love you. Please stop. He was like, please for the love of all that is holy. We have to clip some of these videos we're doing.
I'm not gonna lie, I was just a little worried about the thought of showing up with Dr. Adam Lowe of Arculus and him being like, the hell? I'm a doctor.
And then by the end of it, he'd be like, so I purchased 3 maritime costumes. And I'd be like, yeah, dude, I'm great at selling.
You're not wrong with that. I think we need to bring it back for Kraken.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
And we definitely
I'll get an octopus costume.
We've already got the chat filling up with I'll miss the dolphin, and I personally will send you off with a always in our hearts. Alex, how about you, brother?
Good, man. It's been real stormy for a few days, so today it is super sunny, which means 2 things. 1, it's beautiful outside, and 2, I will not have anywhere to park on the island today because it's gonna be slammed.
Oh man. Well, I'm sure I'll get to hear about it. I always get Alex's misadventures. Whether somebody is, what was it yesterday? There was an old man and his old dog walking down the street, and they were both wearing sunglasses.
You just see like characters, and so like the other day there was this old woman and this old man like on their rascals riding together, and they had this ancient dog also on the rascal, just like rolling down the street together. And then yesterday, as I'm driving home on the phone with Evan, and I just stopped mid-sentence because there's this no leash, no nothing, just very old man, big sunglasses, very old dog, big sunglasses, just walking down the sidewalk.
I love that. Everybody loved that.
I did love that. Immediately, I was like, oh, dude, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
When I grow up. Because we're still not grown up, remember.
No, someday.
No. It's a state of mind, people. And if you don't want to grow up, but you want to understand Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, or maybe you're too grown up and you feel like it's beyond you, you won't be able to understand it. But my friends, you're in the right place. We are here to help you unpack what we call Web3. AI, blockchain, cryptocurrency, all of these technologies you're hearing more about, but you don't know who to ask your questions to. This is your place for helpful news, commentary, answers to your crypto questions, and occasionally aquatic costumes. Yes, Alex?
When you said that, it just reminded me, I watched a TED Talk yesterday that I'll put in Discord. It was this woman who was talking about using AI to level up different parts of your life and the benefits of this, that, and kind of using it as like a casual user who maybe wanted to work on a business or get some help streamlining, becoming more efficient, whatever. And she used the term Web3 a lot. Never mentioned blockchain once. Was exclusively using Web3 to talk about AI, and had like what I would call a very similar definition to the way that everyone. And it just kind of drives home this idea that like Web3 is sort of this idea. It's just the new evolution, but there's a whole bunch of shit in there. Doesn't necessarily have to be like just crypto. I'm trying to be more mindful of that. And then I definitely want to go through this with guests today, but I did want to highlight that thread from old Commissioner Atkins via the SEC.
Oh my gosh.
Yesterday now. Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. So there's the teaser. And
there's the teaser. Give me a pause there. Let me do a commercial. If you want to get ahead of the game, just go to X and search SEC Commissioner Atkins, because woof. The quick commercial I have to give before we bring our guests on is that if you are interested in learning about the wonderful world of Web3, then you should check out theriseupmorningshow.com. We have got a ton of free resources there, including the Rise Up Discord server, which is a forum for learners at all levels of experience to ask a question, share what they know, learn, grow. We say rise up together. We've got all kinds of things there, like recordings to courses, free PDFs you can download. We've even got a membership program that'll help you accelerate your learning journey. We often say it because it's true. The only thing missing is you. But enough about that. This show is powered by our friends at Polygon, and ne'er was it more true than today. I've got my Polygon shirt on because we are hosting some killer builders from the ecosystem. I have made enough ado. We've had enough preamble. I think we should get into it. If you want to play along at home, our first guest is going to be Chonky. He does business development over at FSL. The website is fsl.com, but get out your pens and your paper because they have got a lot more links coming. Enough about that. For now, let's just say hello. Chonky, man, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the show. How you doing today, brother?
Guys, I'm spectacular. Thanks so much for having me and for having us, man. I'm looking forward to having fun with you guys and chatting about all things, and of course, chatting about our stuff and everything we're doing, which is, holy cow, a ton. But we'll get more into that, right?
Absolutely, we will. And just go for it. Tell us what's the best place to start. FSL has a lot going on, and you have a lot going on. You've been in the space for a minute. You probably don't take a breath because you're doing BD. Can you, for the people who may be tuning in for the very first time or who are discovering us in podcast land and they're taking the rabbit hole of crypto, can you explain like the rush and insanity of how we do business development here? Because I've never experienced anything like it.
It's totally different, right? I've spent the majority of my professional career, if you will, in Web 2, in category management, business development, sales, contract management, all sorts of crazy stuff for Fortune 50 company, Fortune 500 companies. And, you know, I thought I was fully prepared whenever I chose to turn my hobby into a profession and go into business development in Web 3. Absolutely not. It is a different world. First and foremost, everything moves at 150 mile an hour, 100% of the time. There is no time off. Everybody all from all corners of the world is itching to partner and itching to grow and onboard the masses of both Web 2 and Web 3. And so, you know, it's a mad rush, and that and the ability for anybody to really set up shop and launch a project or a collection or a token or build a protocol or any kind of a platform. It's really exciting to see teams that are made up of 2-3 people with really not much of an audience launch something that's extremely exciting and grow rapidly. And so, yeah, it's a totally different world. And it's one of those things I never thought that working nonstop would be a dream and really fun and exciting. But here we are, right? Here we are. And no, it's crazy.
You broke the system, you know, you found it. Working all the time, you're still happy.
A system that's still developing too, right? And a system that's still trying to figure itself out and rapidly evolving. And we see that every single day on all platforms.
I mean, it's cool because we're making it. Like,
it's 100%.
Like
we're at the forefront. Yeah, we're at the forefront of an industry in its infancy and the greatest transfer of wealth. And this might sound cliche, but it's true. The greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. And here we are, like, crazy to think about the things that we're doing right now are going to be a lot of the things that people are reading about in the history books when they start to grow. And that's going to come sooner rather than later at the pace technology is advancing.
I like to say that every time there's been a significant technological advancement of really any kind throughout human history, it's always been very hard to access. And the part about this that makes it unlike anything we've ever seen or encountered before is the fact that anybody can get started with like $5 from their living room without going anywhere. You know, when gold was a thing, you couldn't just start digging in your front yard and start finding gold. When diamonds were a thing, you couldn't just get diamonds from your backyard. Like the wheel, anything, electricity, to any major technological advancement, it's always been like front run by uber elite, which is why this is so controversial and why it's so freaking cool. Because we all get to participate, and it's wild to what, because exactly like what you said, dude, like it sucks, but also we are making history, as cliche and cheesy and corny and all of the other adjectives you could come up with. Like, as true as all that is, It's cool as shit.
You remember when we used to have the longer form show, and I would always introduce, the bumper said, "We're building a movement, and you're invited."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the vibe.
Guys, get involved for $5, but I need $109,064 to get a Bitcoin right now.
It's true, but you can get $5 worth of Bitcoin.
You can
and
buy
own some of
$5
it.
with Bitcoin. Yeah.
Or if you joined in the late 2010s, then you could spend $50 and get $5 of ETH and spend $45 on gas. But hey, thanks to our friends over at Polygon and all of the other L2s out there, and then teams like Solana and blockchains, things are changing rapidly.
Even,
Well, let's-
even mainnet ETH I check Milk Road pretty regularly just because they have a little gas tracker. I did something on mainnet the other day. What was it? It was like $1. And I was like, oh, because it was like a little bit more than I was used to. It's been better lately.
Oh, it's been significantly better. I remember the first time I ever got rugged, actually.
Yes.
Well, they're fun to talk about, right?
Rite of
And it
passage.
doesn't happen like it used to. It doesn't happen like it used to anymore. So people that are coming in these days, welcome.
My day.
Like, welcome, right? I remember the first time I ever got rugged. It was on an ETH collection. And I'm not going to drop names because it doesn't matter and nobody remembers. But I'll never forget, I wasn't actually able to mint this 10,000 piece collection minted out instantly, right?
Yeah,
And the mint was around I think it was around the equivalent of like 400 or 500 USD. But there were people that lost thousands of dollars on gas and never actually minted an NFT, and they didn't get mad about it. They instead went to secondary and picked them up for around twice the price immediately. And things have changed a lot, and I'm glad that the barrier to entry is significantly lower now. And those types of things don't happen, in my opinion, nearly as often at that scale. And so I think we've progressed a ton.
Oh my gosh. I remember there was a pack mint where the gas exceeded like half an ETH and transactions were failing, and they ended up refunding a ton of it. But it was like, I think, the most congested mint ever to that point on the Ethereum blockchain. It was wild.
Other side. People paid more than an ETH in gas during the other side mint.
Oh,
And they failed.
Brutal.
And they never got refunded. So you burned, and ETH was over $3,000 at the time, I'm pretty sure. So you were burning over $3,000 on gas for a failed transaction.
Painful.
That feels good.
Painful.
That feels good.
Neil said kids these days haven't been rugged enough. I remember we had to pay gas both ways, and
Well, it
Uphill
depends
both ways.
how much time you've been spending on pump.fun. Maybe you've been rugged more than any of us were combined.
okay, enough about rugs. And since we only have you for a little while and you have a lot to share with us, why don't you tell us more, Chunky, about what you guys are doing at FSL? This seems like a good time to talk about it. And I would kind of love to bring up the website, because one of the things I promised Alex was a great first impression. Spoiler alert, think you have a really killer website. Is it okay to bring it up while you introduce it?
Absolutely. Bring up whatever you want to. Find it.
Take it
and bring
away,
up.
man. I'm going to go to FSL.com for the people who are playing along at home. And Chunky, man, the floor is yours. What do you guys do?
Perfect. So maybe not everybody has heard of FSL, but I think a lot more people have probably heard of STEPN. And so STEPN is the first and cornerstone product of FSL. FSL is the parent company behind STEPN, STEPN Go, More, soon to be 2184. We've developed FSL ID, which we can talk about more later. We launched some big news today about a stable coin that is coming in a big partnership. But yeah, we launched GMT Pay, a payment solution that allows you with minimal KYC to turn your crypto directly into a usable MasterCard that you can send to your Apple Pay or send to your Google Pay and use it just like you would everywhere else, just a tap to pay. But anyway, let's dial it back just a little bit. Let's rewind and let's look back to the end of 2021, the beginning of 2022. So we launched STEPN, the first move to earn. And for those that were around back then, you probably remember it was crazy. It was one of those things where it was a hype that you can't recreate and you can't plan for, and you honestly can't generate with any kind of marketing campaign. It's one of those things that happened organically. Everywhere you looked on YouTube, you were seeing all the biggest KOLs talk about it. Just a mass onslaught of onboarding into a Web3 application, right? People were making a lot of money just from walking every day. People were itching and scratching and clawing for these invite codes to get your account activated. And so we sort of took the world by storm with STEPN. And so STEPN is our first product. It remains the cornerstone product. But since then, later that year, we actually launched an NFT marketplace in Launchpad called More, MOOAR, which to this day is still extremely integral, probably more than ever, at the core of our ecosystem. It's where we launch all of our co-branded sneaker collaborations. We actually just announced a new raffle mint today with Crane AI, which is going to be fun. It's a place where we can repurpose the raffle mint for launches, for giveaways. And the cool thing about the raffle mint functionality is exactly what it sounds like on More. You buy tickets into a raffle for NFT prizes. If you win the prize. It's always going to be higher than the value of the ticket cost. And if you don't win, then you can simply reclaim the cost of the tickets right back into your wallet. We do that for a number of reasons, but really and truly, it's sort of a win-win situation, and it's fair. It's fair for everybody involved. And we take other measures to make it more fair so that it's not just whale games for whales to win, limiting winners to one NFT per wallet, different things like that. But again, that's where we launch all of our co-branded STEPN sneakers with partners like Adidas, Casio with the G-Shock co-branded launch, Steve Aoki, Snoop Dogg. Our most recent was the Argentine Football Association, which we launched 400. And yes, that is the reigning World Cup champions, the Argentine Football Association. So we launched 400 Genesis sneakers there. Really, really exciting stuff. That's a long-term partnership as well. We actually are giving away right now 15 jerseys that are signed by the teams. And when I say signed, yes, that includes the legend Messi as well. And so the man, the myth, the legend Messi. And so those went to they were raffled off to random holders of the Genesis sneakers. And so we're always looking to reward holders and participants in our ecosystem and those that believe in us. We believe in it being a very, very two-way street in that sense. That the beauty about Web3, one of the beautiful things about Web3 is that the consumers and the participants can have a more direct line to the team and in many cases the founders. But it's a very much so more intimate, if you will, in that right context, an intimate relationship that people can have with teams as participants in Web3. And so, yeah, we're doing a ton. Like I said, today, we just announced the GGUSD stablecoin partnership with Agora. And we're going to share more details on that, but that's going to be a lot of fun there.
Yeah, the tweet says, for people in podcast land, we have partnered with Agora to launch a new stablecoin, GGUSD. It's fully liquid, it's USD pegged, high yields backed by treasuries, integrated into FSL ID, which I'd like to hear more about, and designed for everyday use across the FSL ecosystem. Pretty cool. Rewards for just holding, no staking required. Obviously, we like it, and no lock-ins, but we always like to ask some questions like, I'd be curious to know, where does the yield come from? And can you tell us more about Agora and what's this FSL ID?
Yeah, so I will tell you this. We're going to leave some things to be announced and elaborated on later. I can't share all of the details. Well, today, but the percentages is one thing that I'm not allowed to talk about either quite yet. And so the excitement is going to come. I just can't talk about the details quite yet. But I will say, Agora is a strong team. Nick Van Eck is at the core of Agora. He's the founder there. And so, the cores and the strengths of Agora and their AUSD, they're fully backed one-to-one by treasuries. They're integrated with regulated custodians. And they, more importantly, are built to move at the speed of digital ecosystems. That's at the heart of all things Agora. And so, yeah, no staking, no lockups, just yield. More details on that to come. It's going to be really exciting for our ecosystem and people that are visiting our ecosystem for the first time. So you asked about being fully integrated with FSL ID. This is another talking point that I know everybody talks about the buzzwords. Everybody hits the cliches, but like the thing is, how do you onboard to Web3 in a meaningful, frictionless way, right? Because I know whenever I first got into Web3, I'm not going to lie to you. I got in for money. I mean, really. Like I heard about these people making money. I heard about these people like buying tokens, the tokens go up, or buying NFTs, or interacting with a platform. And suddenly, a month later, you check your wallet or you check socials and you're getting an airdrop. Just crazy stuff like that. I mean, the wild, wild west, right? So that's what I got involved for. But why did I say I stayed for community and believing in the technology and the ethos behind a lot of what we do? That's besides the point. FSLID, going back to my point, when I first got involved in crypto in general, it was really, really painful. And to an extent, sometimes now it still can be, depending on your method of getting involved in crypto. If you have to bridge tokens, if you have to buy on a certain centralized exchange and then set yourself up with a certain wallet, because not all wallets have the certain chain you want integrate. It still can be extremely frictionless. With FSLID, it acts as sort of an all-in-one wallet. It's a multi-chain wallet for our ecosystem, for everything we have, but also for other ecosystems as well. It's Polygon, BNB, Solana, ETH. Essentially, you sign up and you can sign up with your email address, and it acts as a single sign-on. So you can log on to more. You can use the same email address that you use for your STEPN account. You use the same FSLID with that email address to log into your Step and Go account with Gas Hero, formerly Gas Hero, soon to be 2184, GMT Pay, all of the products in our ecosystem. FSLID is at the core of that. And it's more so removing a lot of that friction that all of us hate and nobody wants to experience, especially when a new person starts exploring around Web3 and they don't understand. I never understood a lot of what I was doing. Some of the things that I have to do to interact in Web3, I still don't understand. And I think we're all in that same boat to an extent, but we aim to resolve a lot of that and make it as easy as possible for somebody to experience the wonderful world of crypto and NFTs. And that's what FSLID does. It's very simple to set up. And it's like your single sign-on for our ecosystem and our other ecosystem partners as well.
How interoperable is it? Because everybody, that's like kind of a challenge, is like the tech promises to be interoperable, but like you said, whether you got to get this wallet, you got to go to that chain, you got to do this kind of thing. Do you have a vision for making it easy to connect with other things beyond like just your partners?
Yeah, I mean, the vision's there. Of course, things take time, and we're working with more and more partners. And I would say interoperability is strong, but it does take time. We're not all on the same page in Web3 quite yet. Everybody's still filling things out, but the vision is to get there, to make it as seamless and as frictionless as possible, to be interoperable with all platforms and many, many more partners more easily. That's the vision. Not quite there yet, but that's the direction we're going. Absolutely.
One other quick clarifying question. You mentioned being integrated with Sol, with BNB. Didn't you guys start on BNB? Am I nuts?
So the first step in realm was actually on Solana, believe it or not. Man, so the first step in realm was Solana. So we were partnered with Binance early on, with the Binance Launchpad partner. Yeah, so we were there very early. But Solana was the first realm on STEPN, and we actually broke Solana like in early 2022. And it's just the trading volume.
You and everyone else.
Stupid. Yeah. I mean, well, it was crazy. Like the trading volume was absolutely. We still have high trading volume, but we actually our main marketplace with STEPN is actually off chain now. So if you go to look around at the top collections, the top NFT collections on a lot of the aggregators, some of my favorite marketplaces, you won't see the STEPN collections. It's all traded off chain, and a lot of this dates back to how crazy the early days were. But no, we expanded, I think, to be in the BNB realm after the Solana realm, and then the ape realm, what we called the ape realms. We launched a lot of Bored Ape sneakers as part of the ape realm that is now recently transitioned to the Polygon realm, which makes it, of course, a lot more reasonable to interact, a lot faster to transact on the Polygon realm. And so right now, STEPN is 3 chains. It's multi-chain. Step and Go is exclusively on Polygon. Polygon's been a fantastic partner. I can't say enough wonderful things about that team over there and their support and their guidance and everything that they're doing for Web3 in general. But they've been a fantastic partner in launching Step and Go. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Alex, I want to know what you thought about some of these assets, some of the design. Like, man, is that website not a thing of absolute beauty? Like, look at the colors, look at the scroll, and the information is all like right there. The links are easy to click. Isn't that beautiful?
You know what's funny is that you can
Ooh-wee.
say something as like funny sounding as the links are easy to click, but have it like actually mean something relevant because we're talking about crypto websites. Often it's like not uncommon to look at one and have it be like, where the hell am I supposed to go? And it's just like a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah.
So I love that we work in an industry, to take it back to the top of the hour, where the links are easy to click means you've really done a good job. But,
yeah, right.
No,
or like single sign on, such a revolution, but thank God for it.
Right. Yeah, the links go somewhere, guys. It's like I have this Chunky, I have this wine bottle theory that I employ with crypto a lot, wherein like if I know nothing about what it is that I'm looking at, I've never seen it before, I sort of try to pretend that I'm like looking at a shelf at the grocery store with wine bottles. And since I know absolutely nothing about wine, the only way that I would pick one would be just who's got the coolest looking label. And I just feel like there's something to that theory of like pulling cool looking stuff off the shelf. And I gotta say, the immediate vibe from this, and from mainly the main FSL Twitter account too, instantly, that's a cool ass label that I would take off a shelf.
Well, no, thank you for that. And to me, it's important. You know, obviously, design is important. A lot of first impressions. That's where you get, if people try to interact or if people visit your website and you have something that's halfway put together, or something where a lot of the links don't even work, or even beyond the design itself. Excuse me. One of my pet peeves is trying to look at different things on a website, especially in Web3. It's super, super common here. And everything is coming soon, or everything is part of a roadmap, like all of these different links, if they're not broken, or they lead right back to a roadmap that's either outdated or has a lot of TBDs and TBAs on a roadmap, and different things like that. And, you know, I'm not knocking people. I know that everyone is pushing and there are a lot of people that are grinding, but at the end of the day, you know, those first impressions are important, and being able to easily navigate and find things that work, use something that works. I mean, you're right. It is critically important. In a world with revolutionary technology, you would expect the most basic part of that technology, the presentation, to be at least on par with the quality of the product, right?
You would think.
I think it's so prevalent too, because like in the crypto space, one thing I say all the time is that in Web3, you only have a handful of use cases or categories of cryptocurrencies that actually get adoption amongst their targeted audience. And in Web3, historically, that's been DeFi since 2020. And anything else outside of that has gone outside of it. Like they're not real. Most of 99.99999% of them aren't real businesses, as compared to in the DeFi space, where it's only 99% of them aren't real businesses. But it seems but you guys are like in that 0.00001% where you are a non-DeFi project in crypto that's a real business with things that work.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying. You know, we're trying. We've built through the worst of markets. Oh my goodness, I don't know if, I'm sure you guys remember when Solana hit $8 and everybody was just panicking. And not that this is all about Solana, but just that was sort of a milestone that I think of in my head, where I remember I started seeing a lot of projects, not just on that chain, but, you know, people that were once the strongest believers and who you were expecting the biggest things from, people just started dropping, and people just started moving around, or, you know, exiting and completely in general. And I remember thinking at that point, like a little thought popped into my head. I mean, what are we doing here? You know, is like, not we as in FSL, but just in general, what are we doing here? But on the FSL side, you know, we were never phased. We just continued building and continued grinding Telegram and X and every other platform you can think of for partnerships, and sorting out and taking these meetings with people and trying to figure out who was building and who had real products, to your point. And there is a lot of fluff out there, and you know, I think what we see now is sort of the result of all of that grinding, even when things got as bad as they did in the heart of the bear, and when sentiment was just in the ditch. That's not the terminology I would normally use, but I'm trying to be PC, right? But just when sentiment was horrible and people were dropping like flies, we continued building, and we have a vision. We stuck to that vision, and we stuck to the goal. Yes, there are things you always have to pivot, I guess, and listen to your community. But yeah, we've had products that people have loved, and we've tried to build more products that people have loved. Has it always worked? Absolutely not. I mean, it's never always going to work. If people knew what worked 100% of the time, then things wouldn't be nearly as exciting, right? But yeah, I mean, we've continued building and shipping, and that's all you can do is continue grinding and grinding and grinding and listening to your community and paying attention to the sentiment and the overall market shifts.
I'm curious, you mentioned because can absolutely relate, not everything works. And part of this whole thing, it's an experiment, right? We're trying and erroring. What was a miss that you guys had that either you think about, like something that comes to mind when you're like, oh God, that was a terrible idea? Because I feel like all of us have at least a couple of those stories.
And then on top of that, like big thing you learned from it and took away from it too.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So we launched a pretty viral tap game from More. It's Morchi. So essentially, like it's your own digital Tamagotchi, essentially, and it was really fun. We had strong engagement. We actually launched super useless token ticker SUT on Polygon. That yeah, I mean that's the whole point, right? Like how do you get people to believe that this is fun and you shouldn't expect something from it? Or just tell them in the name it's useless, right? So we had like a lot of success, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was grinding, leveling up my Morchi NFTs daily, and I hope my team doesn't get mad at it. We talk about this because you have to be fully self-aware of what you do. So there was an airdrop for certain holders, certain Morchi holders, and our messaging was just a little off. We framed the airdrop as being massive, and in perspective, and I guess proportionally, it was massive to the total pool and the total supply of the token of SUT. But when the time comes for the airdrop, when you use the term massive in Web3, I'll ask you guys, if somebody says that you're going to get a massive airdrop in Web3, what do you think?
I'm going to get money personally. How much, Will? What was your threshold?
15,000.
Yeah, so there you go. And it wasn't a great time for the community when people didn't get what many perceived to be a massive, when in that frame of reference, a massive airdrop. And it's one of those things where it was a messaging error. It was a misstep on our part. Was it a massive airdrop proportionate to the total supply? Absolutely. Was it massive in terms of what people expected? Probably not. But I'll tell you what we did. We owned up to it. We met with our community. We met with our champions teams and faced the criticisms and the feedback head on. And we are continuing to give holders of those particular NFTs. We're continuing to give them perks to this day, and will continue to. And because it's important, I don't think there's always a best fix, especially in Web3. Whenever something like that happens, what's the best path forward? That people have different opinions on that, but we chose the path of, hey, we built sustainably up until this point. We built products with the future in mind, and we see the end goal, and we have our vision, our long-term vision, and we're going to continue to reward the people that have participated through thick and thin, and those that are new to the ecosystem as well. And so we're still rewarding holders of those NFTs, and we're going to continue to.
How do you sustain that? And I'm curious, just generally speaking, because I feel like I see a lot of businesses, and something I want to know too is, super useless token. I feel like a lot of businesses in crypto experience this phenomenon that everyone expects them to launch a token, and the incentives that they design are usually not sustainable. They're usually some sort of like engagement farm, extraction. And to be perfectly frank, when I first saw STEPN and this concept of walk to earn, I went to myself like, oh my God, like here's another token that nobody needs for any other reason than to sell it. And what's going to keep these people, Alex sometimes says, engaged in your community when the only way to really get value out of it is to sell it? Now, obviously, you've created a lot of value for people that might incentivize them to pay attention, click your website, buy the shoes. But like, does the token, I feel like it's got to add some friction at some point where these people you want to feel like they belong in your community also have like an expectation that you will make them rich. So how do you reconcile those things, and how do you make a business sustainable where there is a token like that? Or is it not a token like that? Do I have it wrong?
Yeah, so I'll start with saying this. We have multiple tokens in our ecosystem, and I am an advocate for, this has nothing to do with FSL per se, but I'll tie it back in. I've always been an advocate for, not everything needs a token. Not everything needs an NFT collection. You can build a protocol, you can build a project in Web3 with blockchain elements without having tokens or without like generating revenue from an NFT collection if you don't want to take that route, right? But I will say, when it comes to our ecosystem and the products that we have, the tokens that you mine, there are reasons why there are multiple tokens, right? Steppen, like you said, is a good example of that. Originally, when you think back in 2022, the GST token, the utility token, is the token that people were earning and mining and selling and dumping, and that's what initially people were making a lot of money off of. Now, when you zoom out a little bit, in hindsight's 2020, and all of us, a lot of us here that are listening in, and those of us here know that a token with an inflationary supply, for instance, an infinite supply, is not going to go up forever. That's bound to come back down to earth. It's just. But at the time, and people are in the height of euphoria, and people are riding a hype wave, you don't always see that way. A lot of times what's happening can be blinding whenever you're mining and selling and different things like that. But I will say, as far as adding value back, that was not GMT. GMT is the governance token of our ecosystem. We actually have GMT DAO as well, where ideas and decisions are proposed and voted on by the DAO. And so that's something that we've implemented to take into consideration what the community wants, in addition to just listening to sentiment. But also we're starting to add in, I'm happy that we're doing more of this, adding in reasons to hold our tokens and hold our assets and participate in the ecosystem. I think the AFA jersey drop is a good example of that. But even beyond that, every year we've had what we call the Trailblazer airdrops. And those airdrops, we never give people an idea or even a hint or even I have no idea what the requirements are to receive that Trailblazer airdrop every year. And that's by design, right? We do that because we want people, the loyal people, the people that are participating and have participated, to be the ones that are rewarded. We don't want anybody to game the system. We want it to be fully real and deserved. And so we provide airdrops in that sense annually with the Trailblazer airdrop. And also, there are a couple of launches that we have coming up that I can't talk about, that I can't hint about, but one in particular that I'm really excited about, where holding the NFT will get you a tangible, immediate, real world benefit. And I think that's important. That's an important way to reward your community and reward the ecosystem as well, right? I don't think it's all about financial incentives. I think there should be other incentives as well. And that's something that we're exploring in the ecosystem too.
Yeah, beautiful. And thanks for being frank about it, because it's tough to answer sometimes critical questions. And even still, when I hear that, I'm like, he can't talk about it. Nobody can talk about it. They're all like, stay tuned, bro. It's going to be great. But I see that you guys have a track record of delivering. And I just want to know who's your like chief designer, because again, visually, the communication pieces are beautiful. It's concise. The wording is engaging, but I especially love the images. Who does that work? Can we shout them out?
I can shout them out. I don't know if I can shout them out by name. Let me check and see if the guy.
The warrant has expired.
Well, I don't even know. So I can tell you he's not really that present on socials. His name's Ryan, and the guy is just an absolute legend, and his team is phenomenal. He's a guru. He's also one of the funniest guys I've ever met in my entire life. Just an absolute nut. But he and his team are behind a lot of the designs, and they do a fantastic job. And again, I'm not even sure how forward facing that's supposed to be.
Okay.
But they do a wonderful job for us, and it's a fantastic group to work with.
I'm so sorry because I feel like we've made you say several times I'm not supposed to talk about that.
I have no idea if I'm supposed to talk about it or not.
Come on the Rise Up Morning Show.
Yeah, I genuinely have no idea, because there are a lot of things where people don't want to be forward facing and they want to do their thing, and so I hate like talking about people without their permission to talk about them, especially. But I'll say that the design team is spectacular, and yeah, Ryan does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Now I really hope that there's like an inside joke in the Rise Up Morning Show community, because we have a lot of them. It's just like, yes, the mythical Ryan. Just like just this mysterious man of talent and great humor.
No, the funny thing is, like, I actually looked up his because his Twitter account is like, I looked up his Twitter account and he hasn't posted since like 2023. And I mean, a good example of somebody that, you know, totally unsuspecting that you wouldn't think is really heavily involved in something at that scale, but they are. And you know, people that really grind and work hard behind the scenes.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing. We come back full circle to say about crypto, Web3, whatever you want to call it, is like, if you care about a cause, a project, a piece of technology, you probably can just put yourself next to it because it's on the internet, and you can contribute to it. You can make it better. You can be part of a movement. Like, everyone's invited. It feels kind of exclusive. There's some jargon here, but like, really, truly, like, if you like it, we kind of need you. Please come.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. And I'll just say this one last thing, and then I'll shut up, is that, you know, when I started out as a member of the community with Steppen, and just a member in that sense. And I ended up, you know, joining on as an ambassador, one of the first ambassadors for More, and then ended up working with Steppen, ended up being on the team part-time, and then got, you know, the offer to come onto the team full-time. And I truly started out as someone that was totally like undoxed and with a private account with a picture of a can of cheese as my PFP. And you know, if you love something, you can work with them, and that's the beauty of Web3. You can align yourself with a team and in a community and a product that you really are a fan of, and you can grow from there. It's cool.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I really like to think that in that hiring process, they're like, yeah, no, he's like really useful. You know, he's really nice. You know, I think we can really use him in XYZ role. But final check. And then they went on your Twitter page and they're like, oh, the vibes are good. The vibes, just like a can of cheese. They're like, oh, this guy is built for Web3. That's perfect. Most people be like, this is totally unprofessional. Web3 is like, he's got it.
Well, a lot of the team knew me, and they knew who I was in Web3, and even now there are some people I talk to in private channels with my actual name, and they're like, "Who is this guy?" Oh, it's Chonky. It's like, yeah, it's whatever.
No, guys, my name is this, and they're like, shh, Chonky, shush,
dude. Do you have any final thoughts, good jokes, predictions, words of wisdom, or requests for our audience before we say thank you and see you later?
No, just from the FSL side, I ask that you follow our socials, follow the Steppen official socials, follow the FSL socials, sign up for any newsletters on the website, and just hang on tight. Because we, you know, I think, like you said, we have a track record of shipping. That's what we're all about, is building and shipping and shaping the future. But also for those that are just hanging out and watching the volatility, I also want to say the future is bright, regardless of little dips and the volatility in the market right now. We're sitting great at close to 110 Bitcoin. But just hang on and believe in the technology and believe in the teams that have been here building and those that are building strong.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those who want to follow you, LOL no is the best on X. Is that right?
That's it. Don't ask me why or how. I have no idea.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our friend Chonky. Man, thank you again for making time to come on the show. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to catching up with you soon, brother.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, take care. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines. Love a good conversation, and we've got two of them today. So what do you think, guys? Should we just minimize the ado and go ahead and give our friend Justin a little intro?
I think so.
I think so, man. Good for it.
Okay, in that case, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage co-founder of Katana, Justin, aka Crypto Texan. Welcome to the Rise Up morning show. How you doing?
Hello, GM. Doing great. How are y'all this morning?
We're good.
Oh, we're good,
moving
dude.
quick.
That's great.
So,
I would also I'll go ahead and point out, I would consider myself a core contributor outside of co-founder necessarily. So
Pardon me.
Okay.
Pardon me. We
Fair
aim
enough.
for accuracy. We try to work on that. I will aggressively and quickly edit your title to say core contributor. Is it a totally decentralized thing? Is there a
yeah, kind
core?
of. I mean, yeah, there's not. I mean, I guess it was incubated by Polygon and GSR. We don't really have like a founder specifically necessarily.
Interesting.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like a
But you're-
Satoshi situation.
Your official
One day.
title is head of DeFi. Or you-
I'm more like on the DeFi like marketing side of things.
Gotcha.
I would say,
Okay.
yeah.
So-
Sources.
Who told you this, Nil?
Yeah, journalistic integrity here. Nil, where you at?
Yes. No, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Y'all are doing great. Y'all are doing great.
No, I appreciate it. Sometimes people like to tell us we have a fake radio show because we, do everything ourselves. It's very fun, but also as a result, we have a lot of stuff that happens on the fly. We have tremendous power and itty bitty living space or whatever the quote is. So, tell us, man.
It is itty bitty living space.
You know more about who you are and what you're doing at Katana. The people in the audience, for context, are big fans of the protocol. We have been talking through how to stake tokens generally by using examples like liquid staking on Marinade, staking.polygon.technology, Anchor. Like our audience, learners at all levels of experience. Some of them are level 2 and 3 DeFi users though, and they're like, see you later. What's this new platform? I see an airdrop is coming and there are swords everywhere. So naturally they're excited about it, but like, what's the scoop?
I was about to say William's got some swords in his background, so
I'm ready.
big fan.
Will's ready.
I've been ready for a long time.
But yeah, a little bit about me. Yeah, I got into crypto around 2017. 2017 is when I did my first on-chain transaction, sending Bitcoin from Coinbase to a wallet. And then at that time, I was working full-time at a bank doing financial analysis, credit underwriting, and lending, on the banking side. And over time, DeFi started to pop up, and I looked at DeFi as, this is something I should really be paying attention to as a banker coming into, a bunch of new technology on the internet. And, over time, it got to the point where I was working full time at the bank, but then also part-time anonymously for this DeFi DAO on Ethereum called the Index Coop. The Index Coop created on-chain crypto native index products, and they're still around and they're doing great things today. And then, over time, I was like, working a job and a half for this long is a lot of work. So I just need to, take the plunge and go full-time Web3. And I was close to the people on the Polygon DeFi team through my work at the Index Coop. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got into the space. And then, so I was at Polygon for about 3 years, and now transitioning to Katana, which is incubated by Polygon and GSR.
I'm curious just because I love talking to people about, it's funny, a lot of us have very similar origin stories. If we work in the space full time, most of it just is born from some sort of proximity to something that we were obsessed with and became super nerds for. What was the process like to shift from Polygon to Katana? Was that something that you were planning on or that you knew about like a long time ahead of time, or you just sort of found yourself there and then it became a thing?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes into some of the origin story of Katana too. There's a lot of things and a lot of ideas that came together all at once for Katana, but essentially there were quite a few heavy DeFi users at Polygon and some DeFi apps, and then GSR. We were kind of looking around and just saying, there's plenty of general purpose blockchains, general purpose layer 2, and there's a couple that have like branded themselves as like DeFi chains. And we kind of took a step back and said, what do we really want as heavy DeFi users from a DeFi chain? And when we really got into it, there were two main things we wanted, and that was high real yield, and deep liquidity, right? Which sounds pretty simple. And then, but then like we kind of took those two concepts and just kind of reverse engineered Katana and just said, okay, how do we optimize for these two things? Because we feel like optimizing for those two things provide the best user experience for DeFi users in general. And then we can kind of get into some of the core mechanisms that make that happen. But that was kind of it, I would say. And that so currently in the transition period, like still working very closely with a lot of people on the Polygon team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Polygon is incubating Katana, so we're able to use a lot of resources like on the marketing side and things like that to help. So we're still very close to them, but it's a slow, smooth transition, I would say.
So we've definitely got some a bunch of chatter, especially in the Discord, kind of talking through beginning stages of using different pieces of Katana. And so there's a ton of questions that I'm not sure we'll have time to go over everything today, but can definitely follow up after the fact and,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
get some more answers.
We'll answer anything. We're open.
What would you
This
say
is-
is the best? Oh, sorry, Alex.
I was just saying this is exclusively a matter of time. I feel like we could sit here and do this for hours based
we
on
could.
how the write-ups that some people have been tossing out. But we'll go ahead and then I'll pull up a couple of the audience questions here about it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because a lot of people in our audience they may have just gotten a wallet last week. Some of them Web3 natives for years and years and years. So what would you say is the best way for somebody to get started using Katana for that person who's new, who, they've just kind of figured out a wallet and they're just really getting to DeFi for the first time, and then also for the Web3 natives?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And, Katana is not live today necessarily. Mainnet is going to be coming at the end of June, early July, which is coming up very quickly. But we do have two ways for users to get involved on chain early right now, and that's through our pre-deposit program. So we currently have two avenues for pre-deposits for users. There's one system where you pre-deposit and then you earn crates, which are essentially loot boxes that can have a random amount of the cat token in it, anywhere from 5 cat to 10 million cat. Obviously, 10 million cat's going to be a little bit more rare to get, as well as like some exciting NFTs. Oh yeah, this is it. Yeah.
For people in podcast land, we're looking at app.katana.network. Play along.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's a really fun and exciting user experience, especially for people who might be a little bit newer to the space, right? You deposit some assets, pre-deposit, and then you get this crate. You open the crate, see what the prize is, and then you can do it again if you want to. And the pre-deposits are available to withdraw on mainnet date. So, you can get these crates, open them up. If you want to withdraw your assets from Katana on the day that mainnet launches, you can do that if you want to. Or ideally, you would look around and see that the yield that you can get on your assets on Katana is so much higher than anywhere else that you just keep your assets there. That's kind of what we're hoping for. So there's that. And then there's the Turtle Club route, which is a little bit more of traditional DeFi pools where users can deposit assets and get pretty outsized returns. I think it's like 50% APY on depositing for like USDC and USDT. And then, but for those, there's kind of a soft lock there where in order for you to get the full amount of that APY, it needs to be deposited for 3 months. And you can withdraw at any time, but you're just going to take a haircut on that yield that you earn. And most of that yield is, emission based, boosted in the CAT token, I would say. So
I was going to say, can we cover just briefly the makeup of the yield right now? Because of course, if you're used to trying to do some yield farming, especially with something like a stable coin, 50% is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah,
it would be important to, first question we always say to ask is like, okay, you need to figure out where the yield came from. And we had some really good deep dives in the Discord, kind of talking through where it is from and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, this is an incentive, like you just said, boosted around launch. And it's important to understand the yield is made up of multiple different things, right? It's not exclusively USDC or USDT yield. There's CAT yield. Can you kind of talk about like the breakdown and the launch incentives and stuff like that?
Yeah, and these are just for pre-deposits on the Turtle Club APY, right? So yeah, what you have is you deposit USDC. Yes, you are getting some USDC related yield, right? But on top of that, you're also getting CAT token incentives, and then we also have another pool of CAT token incentives for early depositors. And so, once that early depositing pool kind of runs out, it might go from like 50% down to like 41% or something like that. But it's really just an opportunity for people to get access to CAT early and pre-deposit onto the platform early. So yeah, this is token-based emissions. And in order for us to generate an APY percentage, we kind of have to come up with some sort of value related to the CAT token. So we've essentially valued it at, I believe, 10 cents per CAT. Not saying that that's what it's going to be when mainnet launches or when the CAT unlocks either.
When
it's
you let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, it's just something that we have to do to assign so we can
Fired.
generate some sort of APY percentage.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk to folks about what the utility of the CAT token is in the ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So right now, you can earn CAT through 2 pre-deposits. Those are, you're kind of like a points program, but you're getting credit. Your wallet address is getting credited for those CAT. And then no later than February of next year is when that will unlock. We think it'll be probably sooner. It just kind of determines on like some CAT governance infrastructure metrics and deadlines that we need to hit on that end. But once that unlocks, users can then hold their CAT in their wallet. They could sell their CAT, or they could stake their CAT for VCAT. And this is an exciting part.
The memes of this are going to be so good.
I'm thinking pet your cat.
The cat thing is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you can stake your CAT for VCAT. And then what that does is it allows users to, so there will be further CAT emissions. Users who hold VCAT can choose where future CAT emissions go, like which DeFi pools they go to. And the DeFi pools that you vote for those CAT emissions to go to, you then earn a percentage of the fee generated by that pool, right? Because if you direct CAT emissions to a sushi swap pool, people are trading in and out of that sushi swap pool. It generates a fee. A portion of that fee goes to the VCAT holders.
So just to step in here, for folks who may be newer to DeFi, this is not dissimilar to the kind of thing you have seen maybe starting as far back as like Curve. It would be good for you to go back in history if you wanted a fun lesson to learn about how people started to discover this method of like stake your tokens, get a token that gives you influence to drive the ship for this platform. The whole goal of, in this case, coordinating with a token is to figure out who are the most active users of our platform, who are the people that we should give the ability to make decisions to, and then what's a vehicle we can give them to let them make decisions, in this case, about liquidity, like amounts of money that represent different things, tokens for different protocols.
Yeah,
I would say maybe Arrow has a similar model too. Are you familiar with Aerodrome Finance?
Absolutely, yeah. But one thing that I'll point out,
Sure,
difference
please.
between Curve and Arrow and Katana is that, Curve and Arrow, those are DeFi projects. Katana is a blockchain, right? And so what you really haven't seen is a blockchain really take this type of model into its infrastructure. So the blockchain token is a DeFi token, essentially. That's how DeFi native we want this chain to be.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons that I'm like thrilled about it, is because I think it's a totally novel kind of experiment. And I don't think people are talking about it that way enough.
Well, can we draw one more maybe differentiation with something else more maybe from recent history that may not have the world's greatest reputation, but obviously there's differences between this and something like Blast, because Blast, as it launched, right, as another layer 2 in a sea of L2s, kind of was initially notorious for this like idea of native yield on the Blast token. Now, not like necessarily a DeFi specific chain or anything like that, but obviously there's some differences.
Yeah, definitely DeFi specific mechanic that they had there, which was really exciting. I think, so one of the key philosophies of Katana is taking a bunch of mechanisms that can be historically extractive to DeFi ecosystems and just redirecting those extractive measures to further boost yield on Katana and deepen liquidity as well as like some other optimizations where you might see like capital inefficiency, or what we would consider capital inefficiency, And that kind of what you're alluding to here is the Vault Bridge that Katana uses. Vault Bridge is a separate protocol on Ethereum that was created by Aglayer, and Polygon is a core contributor to Aglayer. But what Vault Bridge essentially does is when users deposit like blue chip assets into the bridge, those assets are then deployed into DeFi strategies on Ethereum L1. And then that yield that's generated on Ethereum is then routed back to Katana. Now, that in that sense, it's kind of similar to Blast in the sense that they did have a bridge that generated yield, and Blast would just send that yield to users just holding those assets in their wallets. That's not what Katana does. Katana wants to optimize for a healthy DeFi ecosystem and encourage productivity in its DeFi ecosystem. And so rather than taking that yield that's generated by Vault Bridge and just giving it to users who have assets just sitting idle in their wallets, that yield goes to further increase the yield on DeFi pools. So users have to be active in the DeFi ecosystem in order to get the benefit of that yield that's generated from Vault Bridge, which, creates deeper liquidity, which attracts more users to deposit, which increases yield more, which creates deeper liquidity. And that's just one of the flywheels and one of the compounding effects that we have in place for the Katana ecosystem.
Wanted to highlight just a phrase that you've used a couple times here with deep liquidity, and this is a pretty good explanation of as an idea after I asked Timmy to kind of expand on it for me a little bit. So I'll
for people in podcast land, we got to have a link because it's text heavy.
Yeah, no, don't worry. It's a chunk of text. I'll have it linked in the Discord, but effectively this is sort of a breakdown of the idea of what you guys mean when you say deep liquidity, because I wanted to just be, in Twitter land and if you're more experienced with DeFi, it might make a little bit more sense. If you're hearing kind of some of this stuff for the first time, it's going to sound a little bit buzzy. And if the idea of liquidity is still kind of like maybe it's just money or whatever, how can you have different kinds of money? This is a pretty good write-up. So I'll drop this over there, and it's worth poking through a little bit.
Yeah, and I could just touch on that a little bit too. Like the importance of liquidity in DeFi. I mean, like TLDR, the deeper liquidity that you have in your ecosystem, the better user experience you're going to have. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to make a swap on like Sushi Swap for one asset for another, and the liquidity is shallow or it's low, there's going to be a big price impact related to that. So like if you're trading one USDC for one USDT, $2 denominated stablecoins, but the liquidity is incredibly low, when you trade that one USDC for one USDT, you're going to get significantly less USDT, right? Like you might get 0.98 USDT, which is 2% less than you were expecting. And that's not a good user experience. Now, if there's really, really deep liquidity, what you're going to get instead when you trade that one USDC is probably 0.9999999 continuing. And that, the less price impact a user has when they're swapping between assets, the better experience they're going to have, the more they want to use the chain.
Yeah, it was that same problem, the issue with deep and shallow liquidity, as to why Morpho, when it first came out, or first came out 2 years ago, but it was so exciting with Morpho and Morpho Vaults because they were doing that, trying to solve that same problem on the lending and borrowing side as well, trying to make both sides of that equation more even to one another, because it's been so imbalanced for such a long time.
Yeah, they had their Morpho optimizers a couple of years ago, and now they've kind of switched to a little bit of a different model. But yeah, absolutely. And Morpho is a core app on Katana as well. And just as we said that deep liquidity helps with DEX swapping, it also helps on the borrowing side too, in the sense that the more assets you have supplied in a lending and borrowing market, the cheaper the interest rate is going to be when people borrow, which also creates better user experience for those borrowers. And also, you also have like a more stable borrowing rate with deeper liquidity in the lending side.
Can you hit briefly? We had a couple questions in Discord specifically about the Morpho vaults and the points system that seems to be in play, the cat points that a couple people have asked about. seeing a balance, that they were able to withdraw for participating in supplying to any of those vaults over there. Is that just like, leading up to the airdrop, or are those separate?
Yeah, so I think they're probably what they're talking about. It might be the Turtle Club pre-deposits, because there's no really the only incentives. The only 2 ways you can get, technically 3 ways. Well, actually, maybe even 4 ways that you can earn CAT right now is 1, Turtle Club pre-deposits. That's that 50% APY on stablecoins. The Katana crates, you can stake POL to earn a CAT airdrop, and then also we just announced our partnership with Kaito, and so you can also just talk about Katana on Twitter to earn some CAT as well.
We just saw that, and several folks in the comments were asking about that. Very cool partnership that a lot of people are excited about.
Yeah, I think we're really excited about it too. I think with Katana, we have it's a DeFi chain, so it's very niche. And if you're not a native DeFi user, you might not be familiar with all the terms or the concepts that we're bringing to the table with Katana. And even to DeFi native users, there's a lot of key mechanisms that are new and novel to a layer 2 DeFi ecosystem. And so what we're seeing here with this partnership with Kaito is kind of like a learn to earn campaign, where we're encouraging users to kind of do their deep dives, educate others about it, and that gives you the opportunity to earn CAT and USDC through that program.
I expect that you'll be talking about this a little more, should I say yapping about it later today at this smoky space here that I've got up, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I think when I looked this morning, I think it said like 600 people have already set reminders to attend. Yeah, Smokey does incredible work.
Smokey does a great space, hosts a wonderful conversation, and the Kaito talks have been really interesting because they've highlighted some of like the opportunities and the challenges. Like there are a lot of really diverse perspectives about like is InfoFi, as we're calling it now, like a Fugazi, is it helpful? Is it extractive? Is it, creating greater gaps? Whatever. I think these conversations are super important, and I'm glad you're participating.
Yeah, I think, I would totally agree. And I think what we've been starting to see is, kind of like I said, there's so many new novel concepts for Katana, even for DeFi native users. But once they kind of dig down a little bit into the Katana flywheel and the core mechanisms that we have, it starts to click. And they kind of have like their oh shit moment. And, I think this just further encourages more and more of those type of moments for users.
Yeah, totally. Justin, do you have a hard stop? Because we usually wrap the show about 10 minutes from now, but I want to make sure we get to your final thoughts and that kind of thing.
No, I've got time.
You got time? Okay, then let's keep cooking because we do have a couple of questions. But by way of segue, our friend Magic asks, Crypto Texan, so which part of Texas are you from? And he's outside the greater Dallas area, I do believe.
I am, yeah. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, which is just west of Dallas. Fort Worth, also a very big city. So
yeah, everything's bigger in Texas, don't you know?
Texas is very big. It's a very big state.
Oh man, we had a couple of other questions here, but honestly, the chat is flying so fast I've forgotten it.
I've got one that
take care of it because folks are excited about Texas now. Go ahead.
Just for a little clarification on one of the avenues to earn CAT through the airdrop being just regular old POL staking.
Mm-hmm.
There's been, I don't want to say mixed messaging, but just because there are so many ways that you can stake, whether or not you're staking through Anchor, whether you're staking like through Polygon staking specifically, and then choosing from any of the different validators that you're able to delegate to, is there a method that doesn't work, that doesn't count? We've kind of covered, like earning yield through Coinbase by holding POL in a Coinbase account is not going to do it because there's no address. You're not actually staking anything. There's no staking is happening. But through any of the third parties, through all the Morpho stuff or Anchor stuff or Polygon stuff or mainnet versus not, can you kind of just add a little bit of clarity to all the different options of staking and then where people should be looking or shouldn't be?
Yeah, for sure. And really, I think there is like this ag layer breakout program where other chains connected to ag layer Katana being one of the chains that uses Ag Layer as its canonical bridge to Ethereum. They kind of get to decide how that gets distributed if they do want to distribute to poll stakers. But on the Katana side, like there is a little bit more of like technical, just technical nuances that need to go on when you're using like liquid staking tokens like Matic X, Anchor Poll, Trufin Poll, ST Matic. But I believe, holding all of those will be eligible for the cat airdrop if you're staking, and then obviously staking directly through the portal.staking.polygon.
Staking.polygon.technology. We got you.
That's what it is. Yeah, there's so many of those.
I know there are.
Yeah, that's obviously going to be eligible, and it's based on, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but on the Katana side, it'll be based on like amount plus time that you've been staked, like a weighted distribution in that sense.
That's interesting to know. And how are you like prepping to resist Sybil attacks? I learned recently that OKX has a feature where in about a click you can spin up to 500 wallets and fund them from a single source wallet, making it no code, low code, easy to Sybil and farm an airdrop. So is that something you guys are concerned about, or that you think you're seeing a lot of? Or
I mean, I think when you on the poll staking side, when you take into account like the time plus amount staked, I think that that helps with Sybil resistance. I think you're tapping into a key group of people who are committed to the crypto space in general. And then on, the pre-deposit side and the, Crates and Turtle Club, I mean, these are people who are putting their assets to work early for the chain. So it's more linear than it is able to be Sybiled. So yeah, we've kind of put some mechanisms in place, but we're not really concerned about it, to be honest.
That's a hard thing to weed out too, especially if you think about like time and amount of stake, especially if you're making a push to onboard a bunch of brand new people who aren't going to like ape everything they have into Poll to stake something, but want to contribute a little bit or participate somewhat. Because I mean, those are all going to be new and smaller stakes that might look fishy exclusively because in crypto we've made it a point to like not usually include those people. So it's a really hard thing to weed out. I guess you'd have to look for like, I don't know. I'm not like well versed enough to figure out exactly how you would be.
It's a huge problem, dude.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, like there's so many different ways for users to earn cat. That's kind of the way that we put it. It's like, hey, pick the route, the avenue that's best for you. Choose your own journey on how you want to earn your cat. Turtle Club, Katana Crates, stake your poll, or talk about it. Yap.
Yeah. Go ahead.
On the topic of crates, there was another question where someone asked, it's like, hey, once I put in a deposit and get my crate, do I have the ability to take my money out after the crate? Can I take it out before the crate? If I do, does it mess up my crate? There were just some questions around that.
No, I mean, you deposit your money, that crate is yours, and then you can withdraw your money when mainnet goes live if you want to, or stick around.
Yeah, or hang out.
Yeah.
Liquidity is important, people.
I do have one follow-up on the staking thing. This is just personal because we've run into this, and I don't fully expect. It would be, if you have an answer to this, that would be amazing. But I'm kind of just trying to hopefully enlist your help in hunting down an answer. So the long story short is that I don't know, like a month or two ago.
This is an ongoing issue. Yeah.
It really is, and it's so weird, man. I cannot figure it out.
Oh, no,
it makes me feel like I have no idea what's going on. Anchor, so if you went straight through the main Anchor website, not the validator through Polygon staking, but Anchor, Phantom as a wallet was an option to connect. And yeah, they are also confused by this because as we've gotten like one or two tidbits from the Anchor team, they're like, wait, what? It was? And I'm like, look, I don't know what to tell you, but it popped up as an option, and like, you want to see the recording because like that's where my Anchor Poll is currently sitting in a Phantom wallet. And I can now only see it if I go through the Phantom app, the native browser, go to Anchor, connect through that way because it's not an option anywhere else anymore. Interestingly, my mother did the exact same thing. Used Phantom, connected immediately, staked some, got the liquid staking token, is holding it in a Phantom wallet, can't even get back on it now through the Phantom browser. And I would just, so the two questions are, one, what the hell? And two, my suspicion is that the workaround may be that you could send those liquid staking tokens to a different wallet and then use that wallet to swap, like one that actually is supported on Anchor. But I'm not really interested in just like taking a gamble with that kind of thing until I have some sort of clarification, or like, is it a bug? Is it a whatever? If you have any people at Anchor that you could be like, hey, can we steal somebody from Anchor for a quick chat? Because like, dude, this is the weirdest thing I've ever encountered. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I think let's you and I take this offline and kind of troubleshoot what could have happened there. Not really sure, to be honest. First I've heard of something like that. But yeah.
We've all took this offline, and God bless you for the time, but
it's weird. No, we don't need to take any more time on it. Just wanted to see if maybe there was a shot in the dark that like this is a thing that's been encountered before, or it's not quite as weird.
Not to my knowledge, to be honest.
Yeah. Something interoperability, something protocol updates, and we never heard back from him. Really quickly, I just want to take a moment to say, if you are listening live on X, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube, or you're listening sometime in the future, hello. We hope your candles are green. Leave us a comment and let us know if you have a question for Justin before we ride our dogs and ponies off into the sunset, because it's getting to be about that time for final thoughts. Alex, I know you have to go soon. We'll wrap things up with a nice bow, but by way of transition and to help you get your final thoughts together, your dogs and ponies in a corral, I do have two rapid fire questions for you. The first one is, does Katana have a Discord, or if not, what's the very best place to get like connected with streams of information in the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a Discord, actually, and I can share that link with you, maybe like in the show notes or something.
Yeah, yeah. If you share it in the show notes, what I'll do is I'll put it in the description. It'll go on podcasts, Apple, Spotify. It'll go on YouTube, and we'll retweet it from the show account too. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah,
the second question is, Texans or Cowboys?
Man, I've been a Cowboys fan for my entire life, and yeah, I know it's been disappointing for sure. So
better than Texans.
Hey, listen,
it is better than the Texans, I will say.
I'm a Lions fan, so I can relate to being disappointed.
You can,
so it's okay. You're among friends.
Just years and years of disappointment. That's what sports do to people. I'm convinced. There's only one fan base that walks away happy at the end of every season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do this to ourselves? But that's another philosophical question.
Yeah, into masochism, and I don't know. There's something there.
There's something there.
Always leads to disappointment.
Yep.
Alas.
But sorry, did we address the question or? Okay, yeah. So I had another question, and it was around crates. Because I think that's my favorite way of trying to qualify for Katana, because
it's fun.
Gambling.
Crates are really fun.
Yeah, crates are really fun. Do I get more crates with the more money I deposit in one go? Or
no, it's usually around, one crate for $150 deposited is typically. It depends on which chain you're coming from, because there's additional gas fees related to those. But if you're depositing directly on Ethereum, it's $150. For every 150 you deposit, you get one crate. Then there's also referral links. So if you want to send those referral links out, you can. That's a way for you to generate some more crates.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
We don't have a referral link for the show yet, but if somebody has a referral link, you can get the show, and then we can, onboard everybody else, and that might be the flywheel.
It'd be fun to do it for the show, and then like host a live, and we just like are opening up the crates live from like the Rise Up Morning Show. That'd be fun.
That would be kind of fun.
I also think that would be fun.
Yeah.
He's like, do it, guys, do it.
do it.
So maybe we'll have a round two and have a crate opening party together. Alex, are you seeing any questions in the chat that you really want to get to, or do you have a final thought? Because I know you have got a dog and a pony that are saddled up and ready to go.
Yeah, no, I'll. So Justin, thanks so much for taking the time. There are more questions. Some of them are significantly longer. So I think it's best if we I'll get a little roundup and do some write-ups, and we'll submit.
Happy to do that.
A lot of people too have been able to get into the Katana Discord and ask some stuff over there. Shout out to the responsiveness in that Discord, because holy shit.
Yeah, we got some hardcore mods in there. They do incredible work.
Oh yeah. Not to mention, I mean, some of these there's a Katana Telegram chat, and like Mark himself is in there answering questions like very rapidly.
Even
and,
on his own X, I've seen Mark answer like 5 or 6 questions about Katana, and I'm like, dude, you are committed.
No, I don't know where he finds the time, but
I don't know where he finds the time either. I mean, there's times where I've been like on a Spaces interviewing Mark, and he's like responding to people's answers in text while I'm interviewing him. I think there's copies of him somewhere.
Yeah,
That's
or
an
he's
art,
got
I
an
will-
intern.
I will say it is an art to be live and respond to stuff at the same time. It takes a lot of practice and training. But and then also, I mean, hey, shout out to Mark, looking at you, because posted his first TikTok yesterday.
He did.
Oh, God.
Nice TikTok. That
Yep.
was a nice first TikTok. It's
Dude,
very
it was
first.
great.
I did not know that.
He's got everything down. He's got the dad angle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As he's looking down at his phone, and
Perfect.
just shot straight from the hip. It was a good one.
I liked it a lot.
I was a fan. Yeah.
That's
Somewhere
amazing.
Jesse Pollock felt a disturbance in the force. And was like,
A little
somebody, anybody get on chain, I'll give you 50 USDC, you know? So,
Base is for this war crime. No, Jesse.
God
Alex,
damn
is that your final thought, brother? Or do you have another word of wisdom for us before you get out of here?
No, I should probably stop it there. But dude, thanks for hanging out. Super excited about it, and I'll get with you offline a little bit about this anchor mystery, and then
Yeah,
make
let's
sure
get
people
that.
have-
Let's get that figured out. Yeah.
Dude, it's so weird. I appreciate you humoring me, because I'm sure that like there's probably exclusively 2 people on Earth that are experiencing this weird ass problem. It's just me and my mom. But you know what? God damn it, we gotta figure it out. Anyway,
Do it for
it was
Linda.
great to meet you finally, and
Likewise.
I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Justin, Will, as we round up the show, I want to kick it to Will first to say, Will, do you have any final Katana questions that need an answer before we wrap round 1?
No. I think all my Katana questions are answered right now. The last one I had was just about the crates and if there was like a mechanism for getting more in one go, or just kind of how to best take advantage of that. But got
That
my
was a
answer.
clutch
So,
question.
yeah.
It's a good one.
Okay, and then Justin, let me ask you, what is the best place for people to connect with you? Do you have any asks for our audience, or is there anything that we didn't ask you about that you feel is important to share?
Yeah, I think one thing that I'll just touch on really quick,
Please.
and we talked about how Vault Bridge, bridges yield from Ethereum back to Katana to boost yield, but there's also like quite a few other revenue streams that we're leveraging to boost yield. We've got off-chain treasury T-bill backed yield that's taking off-chain yield on-chain. There's net sequencer fees, which is typically a way that value gets extracted from ecosystems. We're redirecting those sequencer fees to further boost yields and deepen liquidity. And then there's like chain-owned liquidity as well, which earns yield, and that yield is redirected to boost yield. So there's several different mechanisms that are used to boost yield. So the yield on Katana is stacked in a sense. And then you throw cat incentives on top of that. It's just like an amplifier. So that's, we think of it as like a perpetually funded real yield liquidity mining program that's diversified so that Katana can thrive in bull and bear markets. So maybe on another show, we can get more into details on all those revenue streams that are used to compound the ecosystem. But yeah, and then outside of that, follow me on Twitter at @crypto_Texan. Follow the Katana handle @Katana. And stay tuned. Mainnet goes live at the end of the month, and that's when the flywheel really starts to spin.
Well, it's going to be so interesting for when this goes live, because for the longest time in DeFi and in life, if something seems too good to be true, typically it is. And that we look at that like for yields, for like lending, for borrowing rates, for staking. It's like over 10%. Usually you should be like, sometimes at like 500, 300, 50, something like that. And then the ability to be able to earn something that's 30%, 40%, 50% on USDC yield and have it be real, that's something that's going to totally break that mold in the DeFi space that has really solidified since 2020. So I think Katana is a project that if anybody's wasn't interested in it, this is a pretty monumental opportunity to kind of crack a really big problem in the Web3 space. So it's something that you should definitely kind of keep your eyes on for something that could shake up the DeFi space, which is
Yeah. And
billions and billions of dollars solving a very big problem, changing a stigma. So, everyone should have their eyes on it. If you're not interested in it, you should be, I think.
Yeah, and I'll touch on one more thing that you mentioned. I know we're trying to wrap things up, but yeah,
take
I
your
mean
time.
that's the thing. It's something that we focused a lot on was the boosted yield that users get. We didn't want it to be just like cat tokens, right? This inflation emission based. We wanted it to be in kind, where if you're using WBTC in Katana DeFi, the boosted yield that you get should also be in WBTC. Right? If you're using USDC in Katana DeFi, the boosted yield you get should be in USDC. And we've got all these mechanisms to help make that happen, which is exciting for me personally.
We have
and
a
others.
question in the comments about how long do we have to play the Krate game to deposit? Any word before mainnet goes live?
Mainnet should be at the end of June. So
The
end of June.
Yeah,
Of June.
you got about
20 days. 20 days.
Woo, okay, so get your crates, get your cat, have fun.
And crates are just fun. I
Crates are so
opened
fun.
a lot. So
Yeah,
I didn't
crates
get
are
the
super-
CryptoPunk though.
What's the best? I was gonna say, what's the best reward you've gotten so far?
I think I've had a few crates that were like 250 to 300 cat, I believe. Maybe one had like 400 cat in it. But there's some ladies in there. There's a CryptoPunk. We're about to add some new NFTs this week, I believe. So there's
Where
a
did you
little
source
alpha.
them from? Did you just get like a war chest and then say, it'd be fun to buy or go discount shopping? Or did you have people who were like, I guess I could part with this one?
It was really fun to work with our finance team to buy a CryptoPunk on chain.
We're doing a seed round because we need to buy some CryptoPunks.
Well, and then funny. As soon as we bought that CryptoPunk, the price of CryptoPunks went up 50%, and so it was like, oh, hey, this is.
Team is like, see, we told you guys it was a good idea.
It's like maybe we should just turn this treasury fund into a CryptoPunk speculating fund, but we
Yeah,
did not,
yeah.
obviously.
No, please go buy Mutant Apes. I still have mine. That was 21 Ethereum. Please,
Oh my
please
god.
pump it. Please pump it.
Justin, I actually wanted to know, it looks like from your X here, from your bio, we didn't get into some of like your extensive history. Do you have like a background in like math or economics pre-crypto or designing incentive systems like that?
Just finance, really. I worked in traditional banking for 13 years before I went full time in
Right.
crypto.
So you're just a money nerd for life.
Yeah, I mean, DeFi is what got me interested in the crypto space. Well, first, 2017, it was just like, wow, permissionless payments through Bitcoin. I was like, this is actually pretty fascinating. And then when as a banker, I thought that was really interesting. And then once DeFi started to pop up with like Aave, which I forget what it was called, ETHLend at the time. That's when my eyes really opened and I was like, I think this stuff is really cool. I need to pay attention to this. And then I was like, I need to make this my life and my career. And so now DeFi is my life and career. So
Can I ask you, for maybe other people who come from a background like yours, I always like to ask about light bulb moments that people have. You saw Bitcoin, you thought it was pretty cool, but how would you, there's a lot of people who really have yet to discover like what this is beyond just like, it's kind of like a stock, but it's open all the time and sometimes it goes up. You know what I mean? So like what would be a simple way that you would communicate to people like you why this stuff matters if they're not in yet?
I think it's a really good question. And this goes more philosophical and, not legal or financial or tax or cooking advice. But, I think when you look at people in the United States and just like, or just, Western countries in general, I think that a lot of people, we have access to the global financial system in general, right? Like if any one of us on this podcast wanted to go send a wire cross country, we could get it done this week. But there's a lot of people in the world who don't have access to a bank. There's a lot more people in the world who have access to the internet than have access to the global financial system. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really exciting to me is that, this is like a truly global and permissionless. As long as you have a connection to the internet, you can get involved in the global financial system through the crypto space. And I think, that's what's exciting to me. And like for people people in the US and in Europe, we make this like kind of our hobby. Some people have it as a career, but it's more of a hobby. But there's other people in the world who can use this as like a lifeline for them, or just, their true global banking system. And I think as more people start to like put themselves in other people's shoes, they start to really see the importance of this space. So yeah, if you don't have access to the bank, but you have access to the internet, yeah, you kind of do have access to a bank, because you can use Morpho or you can use Sushi Swap. And that's cool.
Not only that, but it's a better bank. Yeah.
Well, yeah, pros and cons, right, on each side.
Yes, as long as the code was done solid, there are no bugs or exploits, can't get hacked, some risks, and you don't send your stuff to a wrong wallet address and mess it all up. So,
if you're using OG, well-audited protocols like Morpho and Sushi, I think you're in a good spot.
You're in a pretty good spot.
Will, I know you've got a dog and pony ready to go, so give us a final thought, a last question, suggestion, something before you head into the sunset, brother.
Yeah, all I would say to everybody is that you can participate in airdrops with small amounts of money. Granted, depending on the system, you might only be getting small amounts of airdrops, but like, why not? Free money. So go and do it and learn some new skills. If you are new to a wallet, or you're new to even just having a wallet, you're new to getting on chain and getting away from exchanges, take $10 for your first time, $15, $20, something like that, and go through the steps. Evan, myself, Alex, we've all made tutorial videos on how to load up a wallet with Polygon, how to go and stake it and qualify for the airdrop. And then this will be like the bedrock of a new skill for you to be able to go and explore other parts of Web3 and learn about all the other benefits that could come to you by reducing these middlemen and reducing barriers to entry into the global financial system, all that stuff. But you can't get to any of that if you don't start practicing and developing the skills. So make sure you guys do that. And participating in airdrops is a, air quotes, easy way to begin. So go ahead and do that would be my advice to everybody. And the other thing that I'll say is just from a macro financial update, just want to let everybody know that we had the CPI inflation report come out. So inflation on all goods that people pay for, pretty much anywhere. And we also had core CPI as well. So the CPI for the month of May, and I'll pull it up exactly, beat expectations, but core CPI has been flat at 2.8%. The year-over-year one for the past 3 months now. So core CPI did not go down. CPI for the month of May actually went up by 0.1%, but it did beat expectations. So I would say net from a macro standpoint regarding inflation, this isn't really news that's going to like shake the markets. Everyone is looking at what's going to come out of the trade talks that have been going on between the United States and London, Monday and Tuesday, and more into today. That's the big news we're waiting for. So CPI inflation came in, beat expectations, but is still remaining a little sticky. So that's it.
And if they want to tune into further updates throughout the day, I have a feeling they can catch dolphin_coin_guide for a little
that
update.
They can over on TikTok. And guys, if you're watching this on TikTok, this is still my new account after my last account got attacked and broken. So we'll see if that account comes back. It may or may not, and it might take 1 or 2 months for it to get fixed. In the meantime, you can find me at dolphin_coin_guide. We're going to transition away from the dolphin costume. I'm sorry, it's hot and I get too sweaty in it. So we're gonna transition away from it.
Well, thank you very much for the updates that keep us going. We appreciate you, Will. I hope you have a fabulous day, and we'll catch you later. Okay, brother?
Thanks, man. Also, Justin, I hope you're really confused with dolphin costume. Dolphin costume. What the hell's this? Yeah. But hey, guys, I'm gonna hop off.
We'll see you, man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say for my last question, final thought, Justin, dude, you got a really crispy voice, man. You sound good. You got a lot of nice compression in that microphone. Are you a broadcasting hobbyist, a professional perhaps?
I did. So, right, I said I used to work with the Index Coop DAO. And part of that was I hosted the Index Coop's podcast at first. So that also helped me kind of get my foot in the door in the space where I was interviewing founders of different DeFi protocols, everyone from like Stani at Aave to Kane from Synthetics to like now defunct projects like Cream, Lumberg over at Cream. So, that was the starting point. And then eventually I was like, I need to get a good microphone. And so I got that that little Blue Yeti mic up there
Yeah.
that you can
Oh, yeah.
see. Yeah. Oh,
I started with a Blue Yeti.
they're great, and they're good for
fantastic,
traveling.
and they're so rugged. Yeah, you can put them
They're
in a
good for
suitcase and just run them over.
Just plug it in your computer and it works.
Seriously.
It's amazing. And then,
Yeah.
you know, when I started at Polygon, we did have a DeFi podcast at one point. So I did like
Yeah.
27 episodes of that, I think. And then we just, different priorities shifted. And
Sure.
now I just do a bunch of Twitter spaces, but I still use this mic. So if I have it, I better use it.
Dude, it sounds good. And you touch on something that is so important. Will mentioned like financial incentives, use a little money, get a little money. But I think one of the coolest innovations about our space specifically is like the potential and surface area to accumulate verifiable social capital, like on-chain reputational capital. The fact that I could look at your wallet and not even need to know your name and see how you have participated in this space in a way that can't be forged or faked, to me is like the value, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really cool too. And also just on X, like everyone in our industry is on Twitter and you can just reach out to them and maybe they respond, maybe they don't, but you know, it's a little easier to drum up a conversation than other industries, I would say, which I think is also unique.
Hashtag decentralized, but don't get deplatformed, right?
Yeah, don't do that either.
Okay, do you have a final thought or a last ask for our audience before we get out of here?
No, this was great. Would love to do this again sometime. And, you know, dig in deep. There's a lot of novel core mechanisms here, but when it really comes down to it, Katana is just here to take mechanisms that have historically been extractive to DeFi ecosystems and then, you know, redirect those mechanisms to add value for the users through high yield and deep liquidity, the two core concepts that we focus on most. So,
and if folks just, you know, are just tuning in now or they've listened to the whole episode and they're like, Justin, I love you, but I really need a primer for this. Where would you recommend those 101 folks get started to understand Katana or just DeFi more generally? One resource.
Yeah, I think to understand Katana, we've got a great blog post on our website, and I'll share it here in the comments with you.
Beautiful.
That's the beginning. And then also just follow our Twitter. We do a lot of Twitter spaces. We bring people up on stage, which a lot of people don't do anymore on a protocol level. So, you know, come on stage, ask your questions that you have.
When do you guys regularly host spaces?
Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have one today related to Kaito, but typically Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesdays, we talk about some of the core mechanisms, right? Like Vault Bridge, AUSD, chain-owned liquidity, net sequencer fees. And then on Thursdays, we talk about some of the core apps and assets that will be present on Katana, like Morpho, Sushi, Agora, etc. Okay,
cool. And that is at Katana, Katana on X. And he is Justin at crypto_Texan on X. My brother, thank you so much for making time to join us today. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you bet. Happy to do it. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. And ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, people and creatures of all ages, it's about that time where we head off into the sunset. But first, I want to very quickly remind you that wherever you are listening to the Rise Up Morning Show, whether you're live on Facebook or recorded in the future in podcast land, these are our only profiles. We, Justin, Chonky, none of us are ever going to directly message you first to offer you investment advice, ask you for money, or try and give you some money, some free Bitcoin, something like that. Anybody who does that, I promise you, is trying to leverage the trust we have built to scam you. They are not your friends. Run from them, block them, and then check us out at all of our official links, which you can find at theriseupmorningshow.com. And I do want to remind you that tonight we've got another great stream coming up. We have got William Quigley, co-founder of Tether, co-founder of Wax, and all around wild guy. He has a long perspective on venture, on blockchain, and he's coming to give his spicy takes on Rise Up After Dark. And you know, we didn't even get today to Paul Atkins, SEC chair's statement on DeFi and the future. And I gotta tell you, it's an absolute banger. If you want to do your homework and check it out, you can probably do a little quick search for it on Twitter or Google, look for his remarks. But we are going to unpack it with William Quigley and so much more tonight. My friends, we gotta go. But you are the very best part of what we do. So for that, we say thank you. Everybody tune back in tonight, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, wherever you are, whenever you listen. We can't wait to see you there. And until then, my friends, everybody, stay safe, be well.